Should we go ahead and start 6:02?
Yeah, I can just do Lisa's part. That's fine.
Okay, thank you.
No problem.
Okay, we'll get started. Welcome, everybody. Good to see you. To conduct this meeting wholly electronically and to effectuate both the emergency procedures authorized by FOIA and the emergency ordinance, the Fairfax County Athletic Council needs to make certain findings and determination for the record. It is a bit cumbersome, so I ask in advance for your patience. First, because each member of the Fairfax County Athletic Council is participating in this meeting from a separate location, we must verify that a quorum of members is participating and that each member's voice is clear, audible, and at appropriate volume for all other members. Accordingly, I'm going to conduct a roll call and each member participating in this meeting to state their name and the location from which you are participating. I ask that each of you pay close attention to ensure that you can hear each of your colleagues. Following this roll call, we will vote to establish that every member can hear every other member. Jason?
All right. Good evening, everybody. Braddock District, Marcia Pape Daniels.
Good evening. This is Marcia Pape. I am participating from my office in the Braddock District.
Thanks, Marcia. And Braddock alternate, Marco Mira.
Marco Mira is here at University Ball Theaters.
Thank you, sir. Drainsville District, Greg Beckwith.
I'm here. I'm in Duck, North Carolina.
Okay. Thank you, Greg. And Drainsville alternate, Brian Lewis. Hunter Mill District, Jeremy Lee. Hunter Mill alternate, Harold Leff. Lee District, Lisa Mickey. Or Lee District alternate, Bill Bright.
I'm here from my home in Lee District.
Gotcha. Thanks, Bill. Mason District, Barbara Lowry.
I'm here from my home.
Thanks, Barbara. Mount Vernon District, Lester Munson. Are you there, Lester? Looks like you signed on. Hopefully he'll chime in a little bit later. Alternate, Bob Kirk.
I'm here taking the call from my car on I-95 approaching Fredericksburg.
Thank you, sir. Providence District, Steve McLaughlin.
I'm here in my home in the Providence District.
Thanks, Steve. And Providence alternate, Kelly Ayo Oswala.
I am here from my home in Falls Church.
Thank you. Springfield District, Mike Thompson.
I am here from New Orleans.
Oh, nice. Springfield alternate, Mark Hilburn. Sully District, Gary Flather. Or alternate, Mark Abbott. Diversity at large, Mark Fernandez. Or alternate, Eric Sohn. Member at large, Catherine Quinn.
I'm here from Reston, Virginia.
Thanks, Catherine. Alternate, Anne-Marie Swope.
Hi, I'm here from Reston, Virginia as well.
Thanks, Anne-Marie. Town of Clifton, Jeff Stein. Town of Herndon, Roland Taylor.
It's Roland Taylor. I'm here at my home in Herndon, Virginia.
And Town of Vienna, Tom Hanton. Baseball Council, Rob Honey. Basketball Council, Steve Bergstrom. Or alternate, Stu Clark. Fast pitch softball, Susie Williamson. Or alternate, Ryan Buchanan. Football Council, Mark Miana.
Mark Miana here from Dare County.
Thanks, Mark. And alternate, Ted Hollingsworth. Lacrosse Council, Marianne Wagner.
Marianne's here from her home in Great Falls.
Thanks, Marianne. Alternate, Dave Paddock. Slow pitch softball, Christine Iddop. Soccer Council, Lula Bauer.
I'm here in my home in Alexandria, Virginia.
Thanks. And alternate, Trish Moxie.
Here in my home in Springfield.
Thanks, Trish. Volleyball Council, Rob Bailey.
Here from Annandale, Virginia.
And alternate Amory Stewart still here. Women's sports
Hi.
programs, Jenny Cantwell. And alternate Hillary Richardson.
Hillary is here calling from her home in Ruston.
Thanks, Hillary. Fairfax County Park Authority, Kurt Lewis.
Kurt Lewis is here from his home in Fairfax.
And Mike Thompson still here. Fairfax County School Board, Bill Curran.
Sorry, I'm slow on that. Bill is here. I'm here from Fairfax, Virginia.
Thanks, Bill. Vicki Garner, FCPS.
Yeah, I'm here from Gatehouse. Thank you.
Thanks. And John Chapman, I see you're here as well.
Yep, I'm here.
Thanks, John. Neighborhood and Community Services, Keisha Dodson.
I'm here from Centerville.
And Karen Navisato.
I am here from Leesburg.
And that's it, Lula. We have a quorum.
Very good.
And Lester, I got
Thanks.
your message too, so thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Jason. So at this point, I will pass the virtual gavel to Jason because Lisa and or Gary are not in attendance, so that I may be heard to make the requisite motion.
I think Lisa might have just signed on. Hey, Lisa, are you there?
I'm here.
Okay, cool.
Oh, Lisa, so I am passing the gavel over to you.
Well,
Good with-
I'm here, but I'm not together.
So you don't have your script.
I got you. Hold on a second.
Jason's gotcha. I move that each member's voice may be adequately heard by each other member of the Fairfax County Athletic Council.
Second that motion.
Are there any objections? Hearing none, the motion is approved.
Thank you. Second, having established that each member's voice may be heard by every other member, we must next establish the nature of the emergency that compels these emergency procedures. The fact that we are meeting electronically, what type of electronic communication is being used, and how we have arranged for public access for this meeting. Therefore, I move that the state of emergency caused by COVID-19 pandemic makes it unsafe for the Fairfax County Athletic Council to physically assemble and unsafe for the public to physically attend any such meeting, and that is such FOIA's usual procedure, which require the physical assembly of the Fairfax County Athletic Council and the physical presence of the public cannot be implemented safely or practically. I further move that the Fairfax County Athletic Council may conduct this meeting electronically via Microsoft Teams, and that the public may access this meeting by calling 1-571-429-5982, United States, Arlington.
Second that motion.
Second.
Are there any objections? Hearing none, the motion is approved.
Need to dispense the FOIA. Finally, it is next required that all the matters addressed on today's agenda must address the emergency itself and necessary for continuity of Fairfax County government and or statutory required or necessary to continue operations and the discharge of the Fairfax County Athletic Council lawful purposes, duties, and responsibilities. Is it so moved?
So moved.
Are there any objections? Hearing none, the motion is approved.
Wonderful, and thank you so much for your patience. At this point, are there any citizens, Jason, here that would like to address the council?
I'm not aware of any, but if there's anybody called in from the public.
Nope. Okay, on to the next agenda item, presentations to the council. Are there any presentations to the council?
No, ma'am.
Nope. Administrative items in terms of approving the January 19th minutes. Any questions?
Move to approve the minutes.
Second.
Any objections? Wonderful, so moved. For myself, I don't have a report for today's meeting, and we'll move on to committee reports. Jason?
Sure. Gary was gonna give this update, but the communications committee met briefly last week. And the result is there's actually going to be a meeting, I believe, with Karen, my supervisor, and I think Keisha Dotson, Karen's boss, and they're meeting with Fairfax County Public Schools, I believe, next Thursday. I didn't know if Karen, you wanted to elaborate on the meeting or anything.
Yeah, I mean, that's right. We're going to meet with Vicki and Paul and continue to work on our communications and improve our processes with FCPS. So we'll let you know. We'll let you guys know. And I'm not sure if Vicki has gotten the current report of the communications committee yet. If not, I will bring that to her and we'll discuss it at that time next week.
That's all I have, Lula.
No other reports. Okay, let's move on to reports by the sports representatives.
All right. I don't think anyone from baseball or basketball. Football, Mark Miana.
Yes.
And do you have anything to report?
Nothing, except for the new name for the Washington professional team.
Commanders.
Hello.
Yeah.
Mark, what's the short version of Commanders?
Commando or Commanders?
I thought it was commies.
Yeah, well, there you go. That's the problem. And
Yeah, it's I don't know that answer, but stay tuned.
Next sport is Lacrosse, Marianne.
We're getting ready to gear up for the lacrosse season. Looking forward to some good weather and no issues at this time.
Thanks, Marianne. Next is soccer, Lula and Trish.
Trish, you want to take the floor?
Yep. Everyone is getting excited to get back out on the field. So when it gets warm, they're all flooding the fields right now. We have a lot of registrations for recreational soccer, especially in the U5 age group. I think the parents want the kids outside. Otherwise than that, we're really looking forward to spring.
I just have a little bit to add. With the snow and the ice and the crazy weather that we've had, kudos to NCS for sending out the field closures, the ones that are closed, and then and the ones that are not closed. They come every day like clockwork at 3 o'clock, and it's really has given a lot of comfort to the clubs and the coaches so they can communicate. So kudos for those notifications. That's it for soccer.
All right. Volleyball, Robin Emery.
Hey, not a lot right now. Folks are getting geared up for spring season for rec. I've heard we've got a little bit of interest in boys as well, so we're going to try and do some stuff with that. And also just wondering, hey, Bill Curran, if maybe at some point we can get together and talk a little bit about sort of the future of boys volleyball in Fairfax County sports.
Now would be a good time to do that, Rob. Love to hear how the spring season's going with the boys. And so let's, you and I offline, make a time to sit back down and catch up.
All right. Sounds great. Amory, anything else, Dad?
No, I was just going to say high schools are still having open gym, and we have a lot of local clubs who are going to be participating in the Capital Classic in DC this weekend for the 3-day weekend. That's it.
I think that's all the sports, Lula.
Okay, very good. Reports by sports. Oh, we just did that. Sorry. Matter of interest from the governing bodies. We're going to start with school board. Bill?
All right, a couple things. One, we are wrapping up the winter season in postseason for everything at this point. We'll report out next month on how we finish that up. Some exciting stuff both on the boys and girls side of basketball. We got swim this weekend, wrestling this weekend. Track and field, it's action packed now as we wrap up. We do start spring sports Monday. That is our first practice day for our spring sports slate. We did remove the vaccination requirement. So for awareness, we had that for the winter season. The intent was being indoors. Based on the transmission rates and where we are with the current health departments, we decided now is the time. So we do not have that vaccination requirement in place for spring athletes, nor are we testing. So we removed the testing piece of it as well. So there will be no testing or vaccination requirement required. Outdoors, we do not require masks to be worn. Masks still must be worn indoors. You know, a huge shout out to our user groups. They've done a great job. We really haven't had a whole lot of issues reported, or where we did, they were able to kind of head that off with some conversations. So I appreciate that, at least from my end, particularly on the high school side. I do have an issue I want to bring up, and I need your help. I'm going to be very, very blunt in this conversation and ask for your help. And it does involve men's soccer, and Lula and I have talked, so I don't want anyone to think I'm catching her off guard. She knows what I'm going to say here, and so she understands it. I don't believe in hijacking people, and so we've had two phenomenal conversations today. It's come to my attention, and from some of our principals and some of our men's soccer coaches and some of our DSAs, that there's a club out there right now that is requiring any of their participants must forego their high school participation. Specifically, it states, and I'll read the specific language: club players must agree to forego participating simultaneously in both MLS Next and high school or middle school soccer. Except as set forth herein, players who participate in high school and middle school soccer are ineligible to participate in MLS Next. They do provide a waiver. That waiver is limited to: one, must receive or will receive financial aid to play soccer at the school, which eliminates our public schools, or be accepted to a private school to play soccer, which again eliminates any of our public schools. This is now having a significant impact on several of our schools, on a handful of our schools. We are seeing it. This goes against everything I stand for in my career. I'm about scholastic-based athletics and opportunities for everyone as much as we can make that happen. And to ask an adolescent to choose between participating in their high school or participating in a league that promotes itself as this elite, which I don't question if it is or not, that's not for me to judge, but to take away that high school level experience in order to what I believe is a self-serving issue, to me, totally unacceptable. Totally unacceptable, and goes against what I think this body stands for with regards to youth participation in athletics. So my ask here is, I'm asking for your support. I would like these particular clubs to be restricted from playing on our high school fields. There are lots of other fields they can play on. I don't think this hurts or harms them necessarily, and many of them probably don't. But frankly, if I would rather they not be recruiting players from our high schools actively on our fields while they're practicing, to be very blunt about it. Additionally, it sends the wrong message to the individuals who do choose to play. I'm not asking our student athletes to choose one or the other. They're welcome to play with this group as well. During the high school season, which is one season that's 3 months long at the most, I'm asking that be their focus. That's 9 months of the year that they can focus outside in other groups and clubs and pieces of it. I find this measure totally unacceptable, and this language unacceptable, that we would do this to young men and young women at this age group and take away that potential high school experience. So with that, I'm asking the Athletic Council to support that request, that we limit or restrict the use from a club that has language like this, that openly states that an individual may not play on their high school team if they participate within their league.
Yeah, Mark Miana would like to say something on this. There is no place for this kind of bullying and arrogance by any individual group in any sport, to have an ultimatum out there that they cannot participate or to forego their high school season and receive space as a unit on school property. And I would venture to say the same thing on Park Authority property. I'm not going down that road. This is embarrassing because they're profiteers, and having that kind of ultimatum has no place in Fairfax County. And that's all I'm going to say on the record on that. Plenty off the record.
Marcia, you have your hand raised?
Yes, I completely disagree with the policy. However, I would like to ask whether there is any precedent for limiting any club from using high school or school fields?
I can state we have limited individuals based on behavior and activities and other, and sometimes the teams based on their vision. They have been limited from high school fields and from FCPS fields. That has not extended always to the Park Authority fields and the other fields that are available. So we do have a precedent set with regards to that. I can't speak to whether a club beyond breaking bylaws within NCS or within user group agreements exists.
And if they are restricted from high school fields, would that mean that NCS would then try to place them on other fields and displace other users?
I think that would be up to like whoever club, like if it's Springfield Youth Club, they would have to move them. In all my years of experience, we've never had this precedence before. My only thing is when I think about this, I don't believe this club MLS is the only one that's doing this. I think there are other clubs and I think there are other sports, and it's very unfortunate for the kids to have to be put in that position. So we just need to think it's bigger. It's not just this one club, and how do we find all the clubs that are doing it in all the sports that are doing it? So that's my only comment.
Thank you for those
Karen.
responses. Again, I completely disagree with the practice, but I am also aware that over the years there have been others who have done this. Thank you.
I could ask them that, I know we have some, language within our agreements, within the use agreements. And, Karen, I'm aware that there are others. The others I am aware of do offer some waivers that are a little bit more forgiving to the public schools. They do not. They clearly state that it's got to basically, you have to be receiving a grant aid to be playing at a private school or be accepted to a private school to play there. There is no way out of it if you're a public school athlete. So with that in mind, is this an amendment overall to the user agreements that this language, and I support any club, frankly, any club that's instating, putting our kids, and let me be blunt, my kids, because these are my kids, are putting my kids in this position. That you can probably tell from my demeanor infuriates me. This is not in the best interest of adolescents. This is not in the best interest of high school students and high school athletes, period. And so I would go that far. I know that's a huge ask, so I didn't quite go that far, but I would go that far. And thank you, Paul, for putting that in as far as denying any application. Paul Hatcher just put in the chat the FCPS regulation language.
It's Mark Miana again. Again, I think Karen is right. We ought to find out what sports and what organizations are part of this and have that history. We need to dig into that so we unilaterally rule on this for everybody. This is absolutely absurd and embarrassing that you make a high school person choose and they can't do both. And then you're going to give them space on county school fields. How ridiculous would we be as an athletic council to support anything remotely close to this? And I say that to the new members. I say that to the other sports. This can happen to you. And it's just not right. So whatever we need to have or do to flush all this out, do all the legal thing we need to do, fundamentally, when you peel the onion back, this is just plain wrong. Sorry about that. It's profiteering. And if you want to peel that onion back, I don't think anybody wants to know those results either on who's doing this. Done.
Looks like Mike Thompson and then Lester after that.
Yeah, a couple things come to mind. And first of all, this isn't the first time this has happened. We've had this issue before, but we've never tried to restrict field space. So I think, Bill, we need to think through what the implications are for all this. But I would also say that right now, via the allocation policy that has been recommended from this council and adopted by the Board of Supervisors, this is not something that comes within how fields should or should not be allocated. What I don't know is whether or not and I don't know the organization, but I don't know if the organization has an MOU with the school system, and whether there's anything within the MOU, or whether or not there's a, like the reg that somebody referred to, there's a different regulation in the process. But I do think that I mean, I remember it was probably 7-8 years ago. There was a issue with 3 specific high schools on the girls soccer side, where some of the travel programs or a specific travel program had done something similar, and it created a real issue. And I think that there was a letter sent maybe from the school, but there was a letter sent back to the club about that. But I don't know that we're in a place where right now, at least within the allocation policy process, this is appropriate. I don't know if there's a different way to do that, but I also think that I get the impression that this has been done with sports beyond soccer and beyond just outdoor sports. So I just think we ought to figure out how to come up with a comprehensive policy that everybody has notice of ahead of time, so that a club that does this knows what the implications are. Because I mean, I agree with you, Bill, in terms of what the policy, I mean, how a club should behave, but everybody makes choices, including those kids and those clubs. We just got to figure out how to be smart about how we respond.
Lester?
Yeah, look, I totally agree. This is outrageous, Bill, and I think we should go further. I mean, we're the advisory board to the county board and the school board, right? I think we should recommend that they take action in this regard. I think there should be a civil rights suit against this organization, because it seems to me, as a layperson, that they're discriminating against public school kids, which is just completely outrageous and beyond the pale, and has got a whole bunch of implications. And I think we need to hit them with a ton of bricks. And I like all of the recommendations people have suggested, but I think we go further.
This is Greg Beckwith, Graysville District. I'm telling you right now that I don't think any individual group's going to dictate what Fairfax County Schools does with the allocation of their fields, period.
Yeah, and I just have one last comment, and this is just like an example that hits home because it happened with my daughter's team, and that is it also crosses over. So a girl that plays on a elite level soccer team, the coach says, you can't play basketball. If you miss a practice, you're off my team. And then she tries to go play basketball, but I think VHSL has rules that if you miss a certain number of practices, you're off the team. So it puts those kids in this horrible, horrible dilemma of having to choose. And it just goes to your point, yeah, Bill, it infuriates me too. It puts these kids in a horrible, horrible position. And yeah, that's so crosses over too.
So does it make sense? And I'll just ask the question. One, it seems to me that the council could easily take a position, and we have to figure out what the right words were, but could pass a motion saying that we don't think this behavior is appropriate. I mean, I will note this happens in other places around the country. I mean, this is not wholly uncommon. It's just, I think all of us have certainly tried to push back from this idea. But we could, as a council, say that we don't think it's a good idea, and that and recommend that the schools look for, that the schools work to find solutions that maximize the athletic opportunities for the kids. I mean, I don't think we want to. I don't think we should get in any way of dictating what we think those solutions should be, or how you all should respond. But is that an easy short-term solution? While we maybe ask the county attorney or somebody like that whether or not they think that this is a something that we either put in the allocation policy, or is there a different way to approach it that would be faster and more direct?
I can amend my ask here to say, a statement, and I think Stephen kind of put something there today that states that the council doesn't accept this, that their support, which I appreciate. I appreciate the comments and I appreciate the amount of support expressed so far. I really do. And also state that we're going to look further into this from a policy standpoint. I understand it's a twisted knot. The history I've experienced in the 20 plus years is really, I'm at 33 years from being a high school coach to a high school athletic director to this position. We've seen this before. We've seen this on a verbal stance before. I've never seen it written like this in a bylaw. Doesn't mean it didn't exist. It doesn't mean it wasn't out there, but it's been a verbal piece, push back, parents push back, everything was let go. This is a pretty strong statement that's in a document that's published for this organization. That's a whole different world. And then there's a relief mechanism for students who happen to go to a private school. So if you're wealthy enough or you're lucky enough to go to a private school, or you have this avenue for a private school because you're a soccer player, that means you're good enough to play soccer there. So you're good enough to play both, and we'll let you do that. Again, there's so many parts to this that make me want to throw up. I can't get past that. So I guess amending to ask a resolution or a statement from this body to move forward more in the short term, and in the long term, can we go back and look into those other pieces to what we can do for any organization with regards to making a statement up front that this isn't acceptable. This type of behavior isn't acceptable going forward.
So would it be appropriate? I mean, right now, I know it's in the chat, but that's kind of I think that it would have to be put more proactively on the record. Steve, if you're still on, would it be appropriate for Steve to make his motion out loud so that we could, that we could get a second, have the discussion, and formally vote on it?
This is Bob Kirk, but before we do the second and make the motion, I just wanted to raise one other issue. I'm in agreement with what everybody has said. This approach is outrageous, and I just think it may be worth looking into whether the stance that this organization is taking is inconsistent with One Fairfax. I don't know how that's consistent with inclusion, giving everyone a fair opportunity if you're prohibiting folks from playing in county sports.
Good point. I agree with you, Mike. We should make a motion, have discussion. And before we go into that, is there an issue? Does anybody see an issue with Park Authority joining in on our recommendation? That I don't see.
Well, I would like them. This is Mark Miena again. I would like them to join in. I don't know if the handrails are up for them to do that. I'll leave that to to Senator Thompson there. But it would be nice that the participants of the field allocation policy and the supporters of it would look in the same direction on this and really flush that out going forward. I think that the field allocation policy needs to be looked at and see if we can tighten that up to be inclusive of all these infractions, in my opinion, infractions, my words, that appear to be out there, not just this single event. Evidently, a number of people have said this has gone on for a while with different groups. So do we have an opportunity out of this madness? So I leave that question out there.
Yeah.
Lula, maybe you ought to draft a letter. Maybe you ought to draft a letter that we would be flushed out by the council to address these key and critical pieces to try to really set this straight.
Y'all, this is, in all honesty, I think this is a pretty straightforward thing. I think if we get the motion is, as I understand it, would, and based on what Bill said, was a limit to high school fields. In terms of the allocation policy, I think that the allocation committee, I mean, I can bring the committee together. Karen's back online, and I know that. So I know that she had wanted to re-engage before we met, but we can bring that committee back together. And I think there's one simple solution, and that is that if you have a policy like this, you're not a certified youth athletic organization, and that has huge impact on the ability to get field space and everything else. That's where we have tended to do things like this. Whether that's the best solution or appropriate, we can have that discussion in committee and then bring it to the board. But that would affect all field space at all types of fields and that are allocated. But I think the immediate thing in front of us that does what Bill wants it to do would be something like Steve's motion, and that would allow us to act quickly to address this and do what I think Bill wants to get done.
I agree with you. Sorry, I agree with you. This is time sensitive, and I'm just going to share another story. There is a number of young men that are dealing with this situation, and they're coming to the schools because they're afraid to go to their club and asking the schools to sign a waiver so they can send to their club so they can play. So these kids, these players, they want to play, but there's nobody at the school that is in a position to do something like that. So I think it is time sensitive. I like your idea. Let's go ahead and make the motion and talk about it and get it going, because as somebody mentioned, I think Bill, you mentioned the season starts Monday.
Hey, so
Yeah, we
I'll
start
jump
on
in.
Monday.
I'm sorry, it sounds like this should be a resolution. We're not sending a letter or something. We're just making a decision that we object to this. Specific action to follow, but there would be a resolution, I guess. So I'm going to move that the Athletic Council pass a resolution objecting strongly to any organization that restricts participation in high school athletics and recommends that clubs that restrict participation not be allowed to use high school facilities.
I second that. Greg Beckwith.
Thank you, Greg. Any discussions?
I think we should recommend that the county board look into the matter, frankly.
Which board would that be?
We, forgive my ignorance, we report to both the Fairfax County board and the school board.
And the Park Authority board.
Right, so I think we should go to the big boys here and go to the county board and recommend they take action against this club.
Well, my decades of being on the athletic council, we're the ones that go to them, hand them the issue, and hand them our position and recommendation. That's what they're looking for. They're looking for the buffer in between all this. And that's what we do.
And I think I recognizing that if we choose to do the allocation process that I mentioned, that ultimately has to get approved by the Board of Supervisors. So that would be the I can't what you refer to big board. That would, I mean, the Board of Supervisors would debate and have to approve any changes, and that would come with full recommendation from the Athletic Council. So it may not be something that can be done in the next 3 minutes, but it's something that I think can be done through the appropriate process and procedure.
Yeah, I would just add, if we pass the general resolution, then I think Lula has the authority to send that to whoever we think is an appropriate person to deal with it. Send it to the Board of Supervisors, send it to the school board, send it to the Park Authority. Doesn't matter who gets it, the message is the same, right? We object to this procedure and something should be done about it. And if all of them have similar reactions, maybe we'll get some action.
I think this is a two-step process. We've got a resolution to do something immediately, but there needs to be the longer term look, because this is not an isolated incident. And I think looking at the allocation policy, like Mike mentioned, is the way to look at it long term. And I appreciate the mention of One Fairfax, because that's absolutely correct.
Yeah.
Okay, so there's no asking of any amendment. So any further discussion?
Why is there no action?
Somebody like to make?
It's been moved and seconded. If there's no discussion, I
sorry.
think you can go to a vote.
Yeah.
You're absolutely right. I'm waiting for another second, but I'm sorry.
Hearing no
Any objections? Any objections?
Hey, Lula, there was one question in the chat. Should we only limit the recommendations to high schools or other fields too, like middle school, elementary school fields?
What's in school?
That's a good question, Phil.
All school.
All school.
Bill, I think in the document that you have, they refer to middle school, don't they?
They do. We don't have middle school sports in Fairfax. I would ask all FCPS sites. I would defer to my Park Authority friends on Park Authority field parts, but if I would ask that say FCPS facilities.
Yeah, so instead of high school, it'd say FCPS. You got that, Jason? That's fine by me.
All right.
Friendly
I agree.
and accepted.
I
Okay,
agree.
no
We shouldn't
objectives.
sectionalize.
So moved. Colleagues.
Okay,
Thank you so
and
much.
then I would move that, and in effect, I think I want to refer this discussion to the allocation committee, to the allocation committee, but that's my own committee. So I guess I'm just going to move that this issue be taken up by the allocation committee and that we report back to the athletic council with recommendations.
Second. Or if it's cleaner for me to make the motion, I'll make the motion.
I'll
I'll
second
second
it,
it.
Mark Piano, if it needs to be seconded.
Any discussions? Any objections? So moved. Thank you.
All right.
Okay.
And I apologize. I got to jump, but thank y'all.
See you, Mike.
In New Orleans.
Thanks, Mike. So to wrap up my report, I guess, is where we are, Lula. So I'll be brief to finish matters. I want to thank you all. I didn't know where this would go with this group, and I know this can be a complicated issue. So I really want to thank you. I'm humbled by the amount of support that was just shared with regards to the vision we have around our student athletes. And I think that all of us pretty much share. So thank you for that. I really don't have anything else to share. Keep you posted on our state tournaments and can't wait to get outside and start playing and not have to wear masks all the time and have some fun. So thank you all.
Thank you. I do have a question for you, Bill. I know you mentioned it, but in terms of basketball and volleyball, did you say masks are still required by the spectators?
Yes. So anything indoor inside of Fairfax County Public Schools still requires a mask for spectators. Athletes who are participating, who are active in the sport, do not have to wear a mask, but those that are in the building, either as a spectator or coming and going or in transition, are still required to wear a mask. If you read the news, this is probably still just a short-term piece. We're probably just 2 weeks away. The Virginia Senate just pushed through the bill that takes that away. And so by the end of the month, we're likely to have a change in that. But until that's official, and that's an official position, then we still require masks indoors. But the players do not have to wear a mask while they're actively playing. Once that gets lifted, obviously we'll make sure everybody's aware that if and when that gets lifted. Outdoors, we have business as usual, basically, on our outdoor facilities. But if buildings are entered, then that's where a mask has to be worn.
I have another question. I'm sorry if I put you on the spot here, but as far as the health department, and if you are a direct exposure, is it still 10 days of isolation or is it 5 and 5?
So it gets a little bit convoluted here. So the Virginia Department of Health and the Fairfax County Health Department have moved away from any contact tracing. So they no longer require contact tracing at all. So if you're a positive, that's when basically the quarantine or the seclusion piece comes into play if you're a confirmed positive case. But otherwise, there's no contact tracing. It's kind of an honor system, and it's the 5 days and things like that based on their rules. FCPS chose to continue to contact trace and to continue to follow the guidance that was in existence. So if you are vaccinated, a vaccinated individual remains 5 days, will wear a mask, and you potentially can participate after 5 days, but in the second 5 days, continue to wear a mask when practicable. So swimmers in a pool don't have to wear a mask, things like that. That, again, depending on transmission rates, is likely to fade away, but that is not required currently by the Fairfax County Health Department. They did away with their red cap process, and it's also not required by the Virginia Department of Health. That's an FCPS rule. So that only impacts our student athletes. It doesn't impact necessarily your athletes or anything like that, or our students. It also goes for our students and our staff.
All right, very good. Thank you so much for that. Thank you again.
Lula?
Yes.
Mark Mian again. Can you repeat for the benefit of everybody what we voted on the first time, not the allocation policy piece.
The
Just to
resolution?
be- That's correct.
All right. Steve, are you here? Because it looks like you had it written down. Could you read that back to us, please?
Sure. Hang on. The Athletic Council passes a resolution objecting strongly to any organization that restricts participation in high school athletics and recommends that clubs that restrict participation not be allowed to use high school facilities. The high school was changed to FCPS facilities. And that's how it passed. Did I get it right,
I think
Jason?
that's excellent, Steve. Thank you.
You bet.
Thank you, Steve. Park Authority.
Wait, Lulu, one last thing. I'm sorry. There is one last thing. My friends from the Office of Community Use are here, so Vicky and Paul and John are here as well. I don't know if they had anything else to add or share with the group.
Well, hello. Wow, what a vigorous communication and conversation I'm coming on the tail of. So thank you very much for that. Hello, everyone. Nice to see some and everything. Over the past 2 years, I just want to extend my thanks to all the groups and organizations of the trials and errors that we've had with COVID. It has been quite a challenge, and hopefully we will see the end coming soon. Community use is, we're probably about 80% right now of our users, so it's coming back strong. A little bit of challenges that we've had in the last probably 3 or 4 months has been a lot of FCPS staff in general has been affected by COVID, which has short-staffed us and had us to, caused us to have some not in our best, not the way we like to do business, but we've had short cancellations. So we apologize for that. There's nothing we could do about that. But hopefully that is soon to be ended. And we're looking forward to meeting with our NCS colleagues next Thursday to continue the path of communication and to work out any problems or issues that we can so we can move forward in a positive way. That's all I have. Any questions for me? I'm happy to be here. I'm happy to be here.
Thank you so much. I wish I could see you.
For some reason, my camera did not work. It worked in trial, but right now it's not coming on. I would love to do that too, although it probably would break everybody's camera, so it's probably a good thing. So we're all good.
Fair enough. Fair enough. So shall we move on? We're good, Bill? Okay, Park Authority.
All right, Park Authority. As you can imagine, Park Authority staff were out trying to get the fields ready for this spring. Between the snow, the rain, and COVID, and staff shortages, we're doing the best we can to try to get them ready. The other thing I'd like to point out is that we've been doing synthetic field maintenance on Park Authority properties with a contractor. We now have staff and a team in place. They're out cleaning the fields, getting them ready to start really grooming them for the spring season and according to our standard. What Jason just put up is something I'd like to try to introduce, a kind of a something you ought to look at every time I come on. Here's an update of all of information for athletic fields. If you have different ideas or thoughts about it, let me know, and we can run through it. Right now, Patriot Park North, everybody's pretty familiar with it. We're about 30% complete. I think we've been slowed by the weather a little bit, but according to our planning office, that we're still on track. We should be finished, assuming we get really good weather here, which it looks like for a while. Winterset Varsity, that's a renovation of the police administration building. We're going to put irrigation in before that opens. That's still scheduled for somewhere between 2021 and 24. And then FYAC calendar year 22, Alabama Drive. I wanted to make sure we put a lot of these fields back, fencing and other small things that we're doing on the list so that you're aware of it. So Alabama Drive, we're going to be replacing the backstop and hopefully before spring starts. Same thing at Cunningham, adding bleacher pad and ADA access. Franconia installing fences behind the goals on the synthetic field. Franklin Farm, replacing the dome backstop. Great Falls Nike, that's a resurfacing. We're still planning on doing that this summer. Greenbrier, all the grass fields, irrigation is being replaced now. They're close to being complete. And as soon as that happens and we get approval that it's complete, we'll start moving on infield renovations at the same, try to start going with infield renovations and making that field pretty whole. Reston 1 and 2, replacing the backstop as well. And Rolling Valley West, I just approved a PO to start that, replacing that old backstop and sideline fencing. And then for 2023, we still have Scotts Run on the list. 23-24 is the completion date. There is a question mark by that, so I do have to check on that. Any questions on the updates? Obviously, you see the new updates in blue. I'm going to try to update all these projects as they're happening. Hopefully, the fences get done before the spring season. But if there are changes, I guess next month I'll let you know, and we may have to hold off on some so it doesn't ruin the spring season. So we may end up waiting until after the season if we can't get them all done before season. And with that, one other thing, some of you may have seen, it's been the winter time, but some of you may have seen that we've had some recycling cans out in some of our parks. We did a pilot at Mason District and in I guess that's the Sully District at 5 parks, basically athletic fields. The intent was to try to get it out before the end of the season last fall. It didn't happen. We're working with solid waste. I can tell you this, that we will be recycling in parks, and I look to the Athletic Council to help make this a success. We'll be starting, phase 1 will be starting with most of the facilities that will draw the most material, which are the athletic facilities. So we would like to, you'll soon see us putting recycle cans right next to trash cans, and we'll be picking them up and it will be a way. It's part of the initiative, the Fairfax Zero Waste Initiative, but we're getting started on it now because we really need to be compliant with just recycling. So again, we'll be starting that. You'll see some new cans out there, hopefully this spring. And I just ask that if you talk to the leagues, make sure they're using the recycle bins instead of the trash cans. Any questions, comments?
No, thank you very much. Any questions, comments?
No, I would just say, Kirk, if you can send me a copy of that. A lot of times we get questions, and I know I'll channel Gary, and he likes to have this information from the parks and the schools. So if you can send me a copy, I'll make sure groups get it.
A copy of the sheet that I was tonight?
Yeah, all the updates.
Okay, yeah. Jason has it, and hopefully it'll be included as part of the notes.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Minutes, I should say. But yeah.
Very good. Thank you so much. Okay, moving right along, neighborhood and community services.
Yes, all I have is, and I can't remember if we already talked about this, but did we talk about the Champions of Character?
No.
No. Okay, so just a quick update. The event is going to be virtual this year, and it's really turning out to be really, really nice. Chris Pulley did a great job of doing that, and it is to be launched March 1st, and you guys will get the link and everything, but really great cameos from the county executive and our director Lloyd and the George Mason coach and all kinds of things. So hopefully this will be the last time it has to be virtual, but we made the most of it, and it's going to turn out to be a really nice virtual event, and we're going to flash music and all kinds of things with the kids' pictures up and all that kind of stuff. So we'll let you know when the link is live, and that's that. And I was just talking with Keisha, and we'll double check. Mike is correct. I need to check to see if we have to continue, if we can continue to meet virtually, or we have to do it in person. So we'll have an update for you guys soon on that. That's all I got.
Thank you.
It looks like Lula, there was one question in the chat for NCS. It says, I believe Bill said it's business as usual outdoors for high school sports. By contrast, NCS spring field permits still require adherence to Forward Virginia Phase 3 guidelines, which include social distancing and capacity restrictions? Will the phase 3 requirements be lifted in the near future?
We haven't heard word yet from the state right now. We're just following whatever schools require. That's what we require on all of our fields, even our park fields. We're following the school's way of doing it. And I think, Bill, the schools, even whatever the governor says, the schools can make their own decision, right? So.
Yeah, we've moved to, we're under no restriction outdoors at this point.
Yeah.
It's recommended when possible to social distance, but there's no requirement to do it. So we don't have to build out sidelines and things like that like we had to last year.
Yeah.
Last spring, there is no restriction on attendance at events,
Yep.
Okay,
Okay,
within
so
our
that's-
stadiums. So all of that was pretty much the phase 3, the Forward Virginia phase 3 guidelines were kind of lifted, I think, back in the fall.
So, and we're following suit with that.
Okay, great. So moving right along, any new business?
Actually, I just wanted to check, Catherine, did you want to give an update on what we sent out yesterday? I just wanted to check with you.
Thanks, Jason. No, I don't have an update, but if anybody has any questions, I'm more than happy to answer either online or offline. But what Jason's referring to, if you missed the email, was just making sure that everyone was aware of the Project Play Summit coming up in May in DC. And there is early bird pricing, which expired yesterday, but I have codes for anyone in this group that would like to take advantage of it. So feel free to reach out. And thank you, Jason, for distributing that.
I want to encourage you, Carissa Niehoff, who's presenting there, is amazing. She's the head of the National Federation of High Schools. So that's the head of our organization that sets the rules for high school play. And she's dynamic and incredible. And so the opportunity to get to see her speak is always a good opportunity and time well spent.
Thank you, Bill, for that. Yeah, and she's on a panel with Jerice Colon, who is the CEO of Center for Safe Sport. If you're not familiar with her, it should be some really interesting conversations. So again, happy to answer any questions, but we strongly encourage everyone to attend. And if you didn't get the email and you need more information, let me know.
And this is Bill Bright. I'll just add, Jerice is awesome. I worked with her at Boys and Girls Clubs of America. She was fantastic.
Yeah, she's terrific.
So I looked into it, and we're definitely going to be sending several of our directors to the summit. And so I asked the question, I don't know if it came to you, but I asked the question about hotel accommodations because somebody's coming all the way from Fredericksburg and to be there at 9 o'clock. So that they were very, very quick to respond, and they gave me a list of hotels that are available that you can reserve to go to the Audi field. But looking into it, it just sounds amazing. So thank you, Jason, for sending that out to everyone. And I'll just make sure, I think all the reps, all the sports reps should send it out to their groups as well. And the cost is just incredibly reasonable. So thank you for that. I'm looking forward to it.
I'm so glad. And I will apologize if this is sales pitchy. I don't mean it to be, but I will tell you that tickets are selling quickly, and it's a smaller group than usual, just for spacing and COVID protocols, et cetera. So there's just something to keep in mind. I will drop the discount code in the chat for anyone that's interested.
Great. Could I just also ask you where in Audi Field will it be held?
It's going to be an Eagle Bank Club. So the big room there is where the bulk of the day program will be. We'll be releasing more of the agenda later this week or probably early next week. And then there are opportunities for smaller conversations in the director's lounge and some of the suites, and reception to follow in the FanDuel Sportsbook space.
Hey, sounds exciting. Thank you so much.
Thank you all.
You're welcome. Old business?
We already had that.
Sorry? No business? Okay. Anybody want to make a motion?
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
Nice job, Lula.
So moved. Thank you guys so much. It's a great meeting. Appreciate it. Enjoy the rest of your night.